The crystalline spires of the ancient monitoring station hummed with an energy that had endured for millennia. Lysandra moved through its chambers like a whisper, her silver-blue skin catching the light of Meridia's three moons. Her bare feet made no sound on the living crystal floor as she performed her nightly vigil, checking the planet's vital signs as she had done for centuries. The station's readings troubled her tonight. New disruptions in the planetary grid, more human settlements spreading across the northern continent. Their machines tore into the Earth with increasing frequency, each invasion sending tremors through the ancient network she was sworn to protect. A soft chime drew her attention to the western sector display. Another breach in the boundary fields. These humans grew bolder with each passing cycle. Lysandra's fingers danced across the crystal interface, bringing up a detailed view of the incursion. A single human this time, moving with purpose through the forbidden valleys. He carried what appeared to be sampling equipment, a researcher then, not a common trespasser. That made him more dangerous, not less. She didn't bother with the transport platforms. Instead, she simply stepped through the station's walls, her form shifting into pure light before reconstituting in the cool night air of the valley. The breeze carried the scent of night-blooming Marilia flowers, their bioluminescent petals casting a soft purple glow across the ancient ruins. The human was easy to track. Unlike the graceful predators of Meridia, humans moved with all the subtlety of wounded herbivores. This one at least seemed to be making an effort to step carefully around the more delicate flora. A considerate destroyer was still a destroyer. She found him kneeling beside a cluster of crystal formations, careful hands brushing away centuries of accumulated soil from their base. His environmental suit was different from the usual corporate gear, more worn, personally modified with additional sensor arrays and sample collection modules. "You trespass in sacred space, human," Lysandra spoke, her voice carrying the harmonic overtones of her kind. The man startled but didn't jump to his feet. Instead, he slowly set down his tools and raised his hands in a gesture of peace. "I mean no disrespect," he said, turning to face her. His eyes widened at her appearance, but she noted with mild surprise that he showed no fear. "My name is Finn Harrison. I'm a terraforming engineer studying the indigenous ecosystem." "You study what you intend to destroy." The crystal formations around them pulsed faintly with her anger. "Your kind always wrap your exploitation in the language of science." Finn shook his head, still kneeling. "You misunderstand. I'm here to learn how to heal, not harm. These crystal formations, they're not just mineral deposits, are they? They're part of a larger network, a planetary immune system." Now it was Lysandra's turn for surprise, though she kept it from her face. "You cannot hope to comprehend systems that took millennia to evolve. Your presence here disrupts patterns older than your civilization." "You're right," his admission was unexpected. "I don't fully comprehend it, that's why I'm here. The corporate terraforming approaches are failing because they ignore the existing systems, but if we could understand how Meridia naturally maintains its balance." He gestured to his scattered tools. "Everything I'm doing is observational, no samples taken, no disruptions to the formations." Lysandra moved closer, her feet hovering inches above the ground. The crystals sang to her of his recent activities, and to her confusion they registered no damage, no violations. Just gentle inquiries, careful documentation. "Show me," she commanded. For the next hour she watched as Finn demonstrated his research methods. His passion was evident in every careful measurement, every detailed observation. He spoke of the planet with a reverence she had not expected from his kind. "The corporations want to remake Meridia in Earth's image," he explained, consulting his data tablet. "But Earth is dying precisely because we never understood how to work with our planet's natural systems. Here, there's still a chance to do things differently. And if your research suggests that human settlement is incompatible with Meridia's systems," Lysandra challenged, "would you advocate for your people to abandon their plans?" Finn met her gaze steadily. "If that's what the data shows, yes, but I don't believe that's the case. These crystals, this entire network, it's adaptive. It's already responding to our presence, trying to find a new equilibrium. We just need to learn to listen." Lysandra studied him for a long moment. In all her centuries of turning away human incursions, she had never encountered one who spoke of Meridia this way. It stirred something in her she thought had gone dormant along with the rest of her kind. "You will return tomorrow," she said finally. "It wasn't a question. I will observe your work if I detect any deception, any harm to the sacred spaces." She let the threat hang unspoken. "I understand." Finn carefully packed away his equipment. Thank you for this chance, Guardian. Lysandra, she offered, surprising herself again. My name is Lysandra. He smiled, and for a moment, the crystals around them pulsed in harmony with his genuine warmth. Until tomorrow then, Lysandra. She watched him depart, his form disappearing into the luminescent forest. The night wind whispered warnings of change, of dangers yet to come. But underneath those warnings, she heard something else in the crystal song, a harmony she hadn't known she'd been missing. Returning to her station, Lysandra began composing her first update to the archive in over a century. Perhaps it was time for the Guardians to consider a new approach to their ancient duty. Perhaps, just perhaps, not all change led to destruction. The three moons of Meridia continued their eternal dance overhead, their light catching in the crystal spires and casting ever-shifting shadows across the face of a world poised on the brink of transformation. Dawn painted Meridia's sky in shades of amber and rose as Finn made his way back to the Crystal Valley. 3 weeks had passed since his first encounter with Lysandra, and each day had brought new discoveries that challenged everything he thought he knew about planetary ecosystems. The morning air was thick with floating spores from the luminescent fungi that carpeted the valley floor. His sensors detected subtle changes in their bioluminescent patterns, a response to his presence that grew less defensive with each visit. The planet was learning him, just as he was learning it. Your footsteps have grown lighter, Lysandra's voice drifted from behind him. She had a habit of appearing silently, but Finn had stopped being startled by her arrivals. The crystal matrices register your passage differently now. I've been practicing, he replied, setting up his monitoring equipment with practiced ease. Though I doubt I'll ever match your grace. A smile ghosted across Lysandra's ethereal features. These past weeks had revealed subtle shifts in her expression that Finn was learning to read, the slight softening around her eyes when she was pleased, the barely perceptible furrow of her brow when something troubled her. Show me what you've learned, she said, moving to stand beside him as he activated his holographic display. The crystal network isn't just a planetary immune system, Finn explained, pulling up his latest data models. It's more like a neural network constantly adapting and evolving. Look at these energy patterns, they're not random. They're responding to emotional states, to intentions. Lysandra leaned closer, her silver blue skin casting ripples of light across his display. You begin to see as we do, but understanding brings responsibility. What will you do with this knowledge? Before Finn could answer, his communication device chirped urgently. Harrison, where the hell are you? Director Walsh's voice crackled through the speaker. The board is waiting for your presentation on the Northern Expansion Project. Finn's heart sank. He'd been deliberately vague in his reports back to the company, knowing they wouldn't understand, or worse, would understand too well the true significance of his discoveries. I'll be there shortly, he replied, already beginning to pack up his equipment. He turned to Lysandra, but the expression on her face stopped him cold. The Northern Territories are sacred ground, she said, her voice carrying dangerous harmonics that made the crystals around them vibrate. Your corporations plan to expand there. That's why I'm here, Finn said quickly. The current plans would be devastating to the crystal network, but if I can prove the importance of working with the existing systems instead of destroying them. You still serve them. The accusation in her voice stung worse than he expected. All this time, you've been gathering information to help them advance their conquest. No, Finn stepped toward her, forgetting for a moment what she was. Lysandra, please, everything I've learned here has only strengthened my conviction that we need to change our approach. The presentation I'm giving today, I'm going to show them why their current methods won't work, why they can't work. She studied him with ancient eyes that had watched civilizations rise and fall. And when they reject your findings, when they decide to proceed anyway. The question hung between them like a challenge. Finn thought of his career, his reputation, everything he'd worked for. Then he thought of the crystal songs he'd begun to hear in his dreams, the subtle harmonies of a world more alive than he'd ever imagined. Then I'll stop them, he said quietly. Whatever it takes, this place, what you've shown me, it's too important to lose. Lysandra's form shimmered, her outline becoming less distinct as she processed his words. Brave words, human, but stopping them may require more than you're prepared to sacrifice. Maybe, Finn shouldered his pack. But I have to try, will you? He hesitated, then pressed on. Will you help me understand more? There's still so much I need to learn if I'm going to convince them. For a long moment, she was silent. Then her form solidified again, and Finn saw something new in her expression, a decision being made. Return tonight, she said. When Meridia's moons are full, I will show you things no human has seen. But know this, once you learn these secrets, there is no returning to ignorance. Your path will be forever altered. I understand, Finn said, though he wasn't sure he did. Not really. Do you? Lysandra moved closer, her presence making the air around him tingle with energy. Your kind speaks often of understanding, yet you comprehend so little of the forces you seek to control. Tonight, if you are truly ready, you will begin to see the true face of Meridia. It may not be what you expect. I'll be here, Finn promised. He took a step back then paused. Lysandra, thank you for trusting me enough to show me. She inclined her head slightly. Trust, like the crystal matrices, must be earned through patience and proven through action. We shall see if you are worthy of either. As Finn made his way back to the human settlement, his mind raced with possibilities. The board meeting ahead felt simultaneously crucial and meaningless, a stepping stone to something far more important. Tonight, under Meridia's 3 moons, he would begin to understand what that something was. Unknown to both of them, other eyes had been watching their exchange. In the corporate offices of the settlement, surveillance feeds tracked Finn's return. Director Walsh replayed the footage of him talking to apparently empty air, his expression troubled. Something was interfering with their plans for Meridia, and Harrison was at the center of it. It was time to take more direct action. The 3 moons hung like pearls in Meridia's night sky as Lysandra led Finn deeper into the crystal valleys than any human had ventured before. Ancient ruins rose around them, their surfaces alive with flowing light patterns that responded to their presence. What you're about to see, Lysandra said, her voice carrying unusual tension, has been hidden since before your species first looked to the stars. Are you certain you wish to proceed? Finn's presentation to the board had gone as poorly as expected. Director Walsh had dismissed his findings, speaking of acceptable losses to the ecosystem and necessary sacrifices for human progress. The memory only strengthened his resolve. I'm certain, he replied, following her ghostly form through a narrow passage that seemed to shift and change as they walked. They emerged into a vast chamber that took Finn's breath away. Massive crystal columns rose hundreds of feet into darkness, each pulsing with internal light. But it was the center of the chamber that drew his attention, a floating sphere of pure energy, surrounded by intricate patterns of light that moved like living things. The heart of Meridia, Lysandra said softly. One of many spread across the planet. They are not merely power sources or biological regulators, they are memory. The complete history of this world stored in patterns of light and energy. She gestured and images began to form in the air around them. Finn saw beings like Lysandra, but different, more numerous, more varied. He saw cities of crystal and light, technology that seemed to blend seamlessly with the natural world. Your people weren't always alone here, he realized. There was a whole civilization. We were the Luminarii, Lysandra's voice carried ancient grief. We thought ourselves the perfect fusion of technology and nature, of spirit and science. We created the crystal network to maintain harmony with Meridia, to ensure our progress never came at the cost of the planet's health. The images shifted, showing darkness spreading across the world, crystal spires going dark. But harmony requires balance, and balance requires sacrifice. When the great storms came, when the planet itself seemed to rebel against our presence, many of my people chose to flee. Others, like myself, chose to remain as guardians, maintaining what remained of the network, protecting the heart chambers until... Until what? Finn asked, though he feared he knew the answer. Until those who could truly understand the balance arrived. Lysandra turned to him, her form glowing brighter. Your people are not the first to seek a home here, Finn, but you are the first to show the potential to learn from our mistakes. Before Finn could respond, alarms began blaring from his equipment. He pulled out his tablet, his face paling at the readings. No, they couldn't be this reckless. What is it? Lysandra moved to his side, her light dimming with concern. Corporate just launched a deep-core mining operation in the Northern Territory. They're using experimental drilling techniques to bypass the normal environmental surveys. His hands shook as he pulled up more data. The vibrations, they're going to destabilize the entire crystal network. As if in response to his words, the chamber shuddered. The floating sphere of energy flickered, its patterns becoming erratic. Throughout the chamber, crystal columns began to ring with discordant tones. They must be stopped. Lysandra's voice had taken on a multi-toned quality that made the air itself vibrate. If the network destabilizes, the hearts will begin to fail. The balance we have maintained for millennia will collapse. How long do we have? Hours, perhaps. The network is strong, but these disruptions. Another tremor shook the chamber. They strike at the very foundations of our work. Finn's mind raced. The drilling site is automated, controlled from the corporate headquarters. If I can get inside, access their systems. You would turn against your own people. Lysandra's form flickered with surprise. They're not my people, Finn said firmly. Not anymore, not after seeing this, understanding what's at stake. He met her luminous gaze. But I'll need your help. The security systems are nothing compared to the defenses of the ancient luminarii, Lysandra finished. I will help you, but Finn, she moved closer, her light enveloping him in warmth. What you saw here, what I revealed. There will be no going back. Even if we succeed, your life among humans will be forever changed. I think it already was, he said softly, the first moment I heard the crystals sing. Another tremor, stronger this time, sent cascades of energy rippling through the chamber. In the distance, they could hear the deep groaning of the planet itself, like a wounded creature crying out in pain. We must hurry, Lysandra said, already moving toward the chamber's exit. The corporate facility will be heavily guarded. Wait, Finn caught up to her, an idea forming. The crystal network, you said it responds to intentions, to emotional states. Could we use that, create a distraction? Lysandra paused, her form brightening with understanding. Yes, we could trigger a harmonic resonance cascade. It would be visible, dramatic, but ultimately harmless. A perfect diversion. They emerged from the ancient ruins into a night now torn by distant explosions, the sound of corporate mining machines tearing into Meridia's flesh. But as they raced toward the settlement, Finn felt something he hadn't expected. Hope. In his pack, his tablet continued to display worsening readings from the crystal network. But now, running beside a being of living light toward what might be either salvation or doom, Finn understood something the corporate board never would. True progress couldn't be measured in profit margins or extraction quotas. It could only be measured in harmony, in the delicate balance between what we take and what we give back. Behind them, the three moons of Meridia cast their light on a world teetering on the edge of change. While beneath the surface, ancient songs of crystal and light waited to see which way the balance would finally tip. The corporate headquarters rose like a black monolith against Meridia's starlit sky. Finn and Lysandra crouched behind a ridge of crystal formations, watching security drones patrol the perimeter. The resonance cascade is ready, Lysandra whispered, her light dimmed to near invisibility. But Finn, you should know what we're about to attempt. It will change more than just the mining operation. What do you mean? The hearts are connected. To interfere with the network on this scale, I'll have to channel powers that haven't been used since the ancient days. It will change me, break certain bonds. Finn turned to her, understanding dawning. Your immortality, your connection to the planet. Yes, her form flickered like a candle in wind. To save Meridia, I must become more like you, mortal, limited. She paused, her light pulsing softly. Afraid. Finn reached out, his hand passing through her luminescent form. You don't have to do this. We can find another way. No, she said firmly. This is the way it must be. The Luminari's time is ending. Perhaps it should have ended long ago. The future belongs to those who can change, adapt, grow. She looked at him with ancient eyes that somehow held new warmth. Those like you. Before Finn could respond, another tremor shook the ground. His tablet showed critical readings from the crystal network. We're out of time. Lysandra nodded. Be ready. When the cascade begins, you'll have minutes at most to reach the control center. She rose, her form expanding, becoming brighter. The crystal formations around them began to pulse in sync with her light. Finn watched in awe as waves of luminescence spread across the landscape, building in intensity. Then Lysandra began to sing. It wasn't sound, not really. It was pure energy-given voice, harmonizing with the crystal network in ways that made reality itself seem to bend. The security drones sparked and fell. Alarms blared throughout the facility as systems overloaded. Finn ran, his body tingling with residual energy from the cascade. Security doors opened before him, their electronic locks overwhelmed by the harmonic disruption. He reached the control center to find it empty, the staff evacuated due to system failures. His fingers flew across the console, initiating emergency shutdown sequences for the mining operation. But as the drilling machines powered down, new alarms started blaring. No, 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 Finn's eyes widened at the readings. The harmonic cascade had worked too well. The entire crystal network was destabilizing, energy patterns shifting in ways he'd never seen. He rushed back outside to find Lysandra hovering above the facility, her form a blazing star. Waves of power rolled off her as she struggled to contain the forces she'd unleashed. Lysandra, he shouted, the network, it's collapsing. I know, her voice echoed in his mind. The old patterns are breaking, but from their ending something new must emerge. Her light began to concentrate, condensing. Finn, catch me. Suddenly her brilliant form plummeted. Finn ran, arms outstretched, as Lysandra's light collapsed into physical form. She fell into his arms, solid and real and shockingly warm. Her skin was still silver blue, but no longer translucent. Her hair had become strands of actual starlight, and her eyes, when they opened, were filled with something he'd never seen in them before: uncertainty. Did it work? She asked, her voice now a single tone, beautiful but mortal. Before he could answer, the ground shook violently. Above them, Meridia's three moons seemed to pulse with new light. The crystal formations around them began to change, their patterns shifting, evolving. The network, Finn gasped, checking his readings. It's reorganizing itself, creating new patterns. Lysandra stood shakily, leaning on him. Not just new patterns, a new balance. She touched a nearby crystal, and though it still glowed at her touch, the response was different. The age of the Luminarii is truly over. Now the network will adapt to include all of Meridia's children, human and Luminarii alike. In the distance, they could see lights appearing in the settlement as people emerged to witness the transformation taking place across the landscape. The very air seemed charged with possibility. But Finn noticed Lysandra shivering. You're cold, he realized. You can feel cold now. I can feel everything now, she whispered. It's overwhelming. She looked up at him with new vulnerability. I don't know how to be mortal. Finn wrapped his jacket around her shoulders. I'll teach you, he promised, just like you taught me to hear the crystal songs. Above them, Meridia's moons continued their dance, their light falling on a world where ancient powers were giving way to new possibilities, and where a former guardian of eternity was learning what it meant to live in the precious present moment. 1 year had passed since the night of transformation. The crystal valleys bloomed with new life hybrid forms that mixed the ancient and the new in ways never before seen on Meridia. In the place where the corporate facility once stood, a research center now rose, its architecture incorporating living crystal that pulsed in harmony with the planet's rhythms. Lysandra stood at its highest observation point, watching the sunrise. She wore simple clothing now, though her silver blue skin still caught the light in otherworldly ways. A year of mortality had changed her in countless small ways. She had learned to enjoy food, to feel pain, to laugh without restraint. The latest readings from the network are incredible, Finn said, joining her at the window. He looked different too, more confident, less weathered by worry. The new growth patterns are spreading faster than we predicted. Even Director Walsh had to admit the results are beyond anything the old mining operations could have produced. The network adapts, Lysandra said softly, as do we all. She pressed a hand to her abdomen where new life grew, a child that would be neither fully human nor fully Luminarii but something wonderfully unique. The research center had become a beacon for others like them. More Luminarii had emerged from hiding, choosing to take mortal form and work alongside humans who showed true understanding of Meridia's ways. And some humans, through prolonged exposure to the crystal network, had begun to develop abilities once thought exclusive to the Luminarii. The expedition team found another heart chamber yesterday, Finn continued, pulling up holographic data displays. The energy patterns there are unlike anything we've seen before. It's as if the network is evolving, creating new possibilities we never imagined. Lysandra smiled, remembering how she once viewed such human curiosity with suspicion. Now she saw it for what it truly was, the driving force behind positive change, when properly balanced with wisdom and respect. To think, she mused, I once believed my duty was to prevent change, to preserve the old ways at any cost. But true guardianship means nurturing growth, even when it takes unexpected forms. A chime sounded throughout the facility. The morning gathering was about to begin. In the central chamber below, humans and former Luminarii assembled to share discoveries, plan research, and maintain the delicate balance that kept Meridia thriving. As they made their way down, Lysandra felt the familiar stirring of the child within her. The network responded to the tiny life's presence, crystals chiming softly as they passed. This child would be born into a world where the boundaries between species, between technology and nature, between past and future, had begun to blur into something new and beautiful. Do you ever regret it? Finn asked quietly, choosing mortality. Lysandra paused, considering. Immortality showed me endless repetitions of the same patterns, but mortality. She took his hand, feeling the warmth of his skin against hers. Mortality shows me the beauty of change, the preciousness of each moment because it cannot last forever. They entered the central chamber, where the morning light filtered through crystal walls to create dancing patterns across the assembled faces. Human scientists worked alongside former luminarii, their different perspectives combining to unlock new understanding of Meridia's mysteries. Besides, Lysandra continued, what we're building here will last longer than any single lifetime. Our child will carry forward both legacies and their children after them. The morning session began with the traditional harmonizing, humans and luminarii together creating resonance patterns that strengthened the crystal network. The sound filled the chamber, a symphony of voices that would have been impossible just a year ago. Lysandra joined her voice to the harmony, no longer the pure energy tone of her immortal days, but something equally beautiful in its newfound humanity. Finn's voice blended with hers, and for a moment she could see the future unfolding before them, generations of children who would walk between worlds, understanding both the songs of the crystals and the dreams of the stars. Above the research center, Meridia's three moons began their slow descent toward the horizon, making way for the rising sun. The crystal valleys sparkled with morning light, each formation a testament to the power of change, of growth, of learning to let go of eternal things in favor of precious mortal moments. In the end, Lysandra reflected, that was the true price of starlight, the courage to step down from immortal heights and embrace the beautiful uncertainty of living, loving, and growing alongside those we once thought beneath us. It was a price she would gladly pay again, for each morning brought new wonders that eternity had never dreamed of showing her. The future stretched before them, not as an endless unchanging road, but as a path of infinite possibility. And in the harmony of voices rising around them, human and luminarii together, she heard the promise of dawn, that the greatest power was not in remaining forever unchanged, but in learning to change together, growing towards something greater than either race could have become alone.